The following is the procedure for public comment and participation. Individuals wishing to speak on agenda items must complete a sign-up card prior to the item being introduced. Those wishing to speak on quasi-judicial public hearings must complete a sign-up card and sign the oath. Sign-up and oath cards are available on the table. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions and requests from the public present. This opportunity is offered twice in the meeting, and individuals may speak at either the first or second petitions, but not both. No sign-up card is required. Citizens shall not comment on any issue more than once during the meeting. All comments except petitions and requests must address the pending issue, and citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on agenda items. Next, citizens wishing to speak on the consent agenda must submit a sign-up card identifying the items of interest. Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes to speak on the entire consent agenda. And finally, all sign-up cards and exhibits being submitted to the City Council shall be placed in the box on the table.
The purpose of the City Council meeting is to discuss city business, and proper decorum must be displayed by all in attendance. Public input and participation is encouraged. However, all persons in attendance shall comply with the rules for meeting procedures and shall refrain from any action that disrupts the orderly proceedings of the council meeting or hinders a council from performing its duties. No person shall interfere with the rights of others to speak, hear, see, or attend the proceedings, make threats of violence, disrupt the proceedings with shouting, fail to confine remarks to the agenda item under consideration, nor continue to speak after the allotted speaking time has expired, as these actions shall be considered disruptive and disorderly. The mayor shall caution any person who violates these provisions and disrupts the orderly proceedings of the council meetings, and they shall be directed to comply. Any person who fails to comply, as cautioned, shall be ruled out of order, shall forfeit the remainder of their speaking time on the agenda item under consideration, and will be requested to return to their seat. Persons who fail to comply as directed shall be subject to removal from the council chambers by law enforcement or such other actions as may be reasonably necessary to enforce these regulations. Notwithstanding, the mayor may order the immediate removal of any person from the chambers who possesses a threat to property or life safety. Nothing in this section shall be construed to limit or restrict a person's right created by the Constitution, law, ordinance, or regulation.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City of Titusville City Council regular meeting scheduled May 12th, 2026 at 6:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order. For an invocation, we'll be holding a moment of silence. If you wouldn't mind, please bow on your heads. Thank you very much. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. City Attorney, do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Thank you very much. City Council, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move the minutes of April 14, 2026.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Cole, a second by Member Stokel. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. The first item on the agenda is under item 5, special recognitions and presentations. And the mayor will present a proclamation recognizing May 16th through May 22nd, 2026 as Safe Boating Week. And we have members of the Coast Guard Auxiliary here to accept that proclamation. And I will read the proclamation for the record. This is an official proclamation of the City of Titusville, Florida. Whereas an average of 650 lives are lost each year in boating-related accidents across the United States, with 75% of those deaths resulting from drowning, and whereas the majority of these tragic incidents are attributed to human error or poor judgment rather than mechanical failure, equipment issues, or environmental conditions, and whereas many of the individuals who drowned could have survived had they been wearing life jackets. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Connors, by the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Titusville, do hereby proclaim May 16th through 22nd, 2026 as Safe Boating Week in the City of Titusville. marking the beginning of a year-round commitment to promoting safe and responsible boating practices, and I encourage all boaters to adopt safe boating habits and to wear a life jacket at all times while on the water. Signed, Andrew Connors, Mayor.
Thank you. Oh, let's come over here so that we do every single year. I mean, right next to my favorite mayor. Oh. Now for our camera over here. This is a great event here in Titusville because this is our third year that we're doing this. And you know that Friday is take your life jacket to work day. And besides not wearing a life jacket, the second one is the wife hassling the husband because she wants to drive the boat. I'm kidding. It's drunken driving. It's drunk driving. You cannot drink and boat at the same time. What is the number one state in our states of the greatest fatalities of boating? Florida. We're number one. We don't want to be number one anymore. Anyway, Mayor,
Thank you very much.
thank you
Appreciate you guys
again.
being here.
God
Thank
bless
you.
all.
All right, thank you very much. Before we move into our next item, council, I was hoping to move up a portion of the city manager's report regarding the asset manager's report. So if council will be so inclined that after we get into our next item, which is boards and commissions, right after that, we'll get into the asset management report. Is that okay by everybody?
Yeah.
All righty. City manager, you're up next.
Yes, sir. Included in my city manager
Oh,
report.
nope, we're
is-
still on boards 6A. Yeah.
Okay. So in item 6, boards and commissions, is the Titusville-Cocoa Airport Authority. And the recommended action is to accept the resignation of Titusville-Cocoa Airport Authority regular member Kenneth Ward with an unexpired term that will expire on July 8th, 2028. The resignation was effective May 4th, 2026, and we currently have no applicants on file for that position.
Thank you very much, City Clerk.
Dan Johnston.
My name is Stan Johnston. I'm an engineer and also a surveyor. And Ken Ward is a surveyor, and his dad is Lois Ward, who just passed away recently. I worked for Lois for a number of years and did a lot of site plans and subdivisions as the engineer of record. So I'm pleased to say that we've had a good choice having Mr. Ward in this position, and I'm sorry to see him leave. But my concern is that the choice that of your replacement is going to be like many choices that you have made that are disrespectful to me, my engineering profession, and engineering law, and surveying law too. Completely disrespectful of it. So you choose, it appears that Mr. Connors and at least 4 of you choose people who are sometimes the least qualified. And I think it's horrible. It's horrible what you're doing. And of course, I have not been chosen for positions that I have requested for that are within my scope of expertise. Because what? Because I have findings of fraud and dishonesty within the city of Titusville, and I'm persecuted for it. So I would like you this time to make a different one, is to find somebody who's truthful, who's going to be want to obey the laws, because you're not obeying the laws, engineering laws, even water flows downhill. So I'm still in a position that I'm upset that the city of Titusville continues to have a policy, I want to use the word policy, that it was okay to spray the people with piss and poop who came to our public parks. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, please wake up.
Any other cards? No, sir. All right. You have a motion to accept the resignation?
Yeah, so moved.
A motion by Member Moscoso, second by Vice Mayor Cole. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. City Manager, on to the asset management report, please.
Yes, sir. In my city manager report, there is a updated report from our asset manager regarding the initial findings of the March 12th internal auditor's report. As you recall, that report was an audit based on allegations of theft of property and also misappropriation of city resources, and it was reviewed by our internal auditor. The result is that on that one, there was an allegation that was substantiated, and the employee was terminated and is now facing criminal charges. And also, we're looking to recover whatever we can from that person. Also, during the audit, the internal auditor expanded the scope to take a look at our asset management procedures and found initially some discrepancies in asset management dating back to 1970. As part of my initial management response, we hired an asset manager to look into our asset management procedures, instituted a fraud hotline, took a look at our procurement card practices and other internal controls. One of the first actions of the asset manager was to do a deep dive into our asset management procedures, and the report which followed, which is on my May 12th city manager report, details that we have uncovered and physically verified a number of the assets that were initially unaccounted for. The number one asset that we found, that we did find exists, is the water telemetry system, also known as SCADA, a $300,000 item, which is actually installed on all our lift stations, hardware, and also software. Also, we were able to physically locate the F-250 truck and verify the VIN number. It was assigned to a different division. We corrected that paperwork. And again, the asset manager was able to verify a number of other assets, and we found out that we were able to correct that report. So we have both the asset manager and our internal auditor here tonight, should council wish to have any discussions on the findings of the asset manager.
Thank you very much, City Manager, Ms. Asset Manager Chrissy, and Amelia, our internal auditor, if you guys want to come forward. I was hoping, Chrissy, if you wouldn't mind just giving us an overview of your report for the public, because it is very detailed. But if you wouldn't mind just giving us an overview, tell us what you found.
So during my report, I was able to find quite a few of the items by looking further into records for information that wasn't initially on the list of fixed assets. So for example, some items didn't have model numbers or serial numbers or VIN numbers to be used to identify. So through my investigation, I looked and I found the original purchase orders, which I was able to get model number information off of. And so I have, that's how a lot of the things were identified, was going back to the original purchase, finding the information for the original purchase, and then finding the items that matched the original purchase. Also, for example, the Ford F-250 truck, that one, it seemed to be a small clerical error with two divisions bought the same truck at the same time, and the divisions swapped. One item, it was a pump from 1989. I was able to, sorry, it was a generator from 1989. I was able to find the original auction paperwork from that. It had, model numbers, fleet numbers, auction dates, proceeds. So all of that was found and verified. Quite a few of the items I got with our fleet maintenance department, and they were items such as utility bodies, cranes, the Vector attachment to trucks, and I'm not sure why this happened, but there seemed to be a breakdown where divisions didn't realize that these permanent attachments on trucks had separate asset numbers assigned. So we're now aware of that, and I'll be reviewing asset paperwork before auctions. Our fleet manager is aware of that now. I've been making divisions aware of that. I did go to field ops multiple times and physically verify information. And yeah, everything I found was either verified in person or by records. Anything else?
Thank you very much. City Council, do you have any questions of Ms. Chrissy? Not seeing any. Ms. Amelia, would you like?
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Chrissy, for your deep dive. I wanted to go over the methodology of the internal audit. First thing, the methodology that's listed in the audit report states that the capital asset records were reviewed and maintained by the finance department. And what I did was I took the finance department's fixed asset records and I did a physical verification of selected located items in the field ops facility. The division was provided the fixed asset list on February 17, 2026. And a verification audit was completed by myself and field ops personnel on February 20th, 2026. Now, the city has had the opportunity to research the items provided up until actually the final audit report during the draft. And then there was communication between myself and the staff back and forth between those times, which we kind of deleted, we removed some of the items. So that's where we got the 35 items and the 1.2 million. The 35 assets, 30% could not be physically located at the facility. The report didn't definitively say that the assets did not exist. They just couldn't be verified at the time of the field work. The audit findings reflect the conditions of the audit at the time of the audit field work, and the subsequent identification of the assets after the completion of the field work does not invalidate the actual audit. It actually demonstrates that additional research was necessary because the fixed asset records and department knowledge were insufficient at the time of the audit field work. And to go through the spreadsheet that the asset manager's research, I wanted to just give you a preliminary review because I did a preliminary review of that. And on here, I was not able to actually physically validate or verify at the facility since she has gone out to the facility about 9 items on there. I just got a note on Friday that I'm supposed to be here. But I did validate that when you have discrepancies, when you can't support audit evidence or you don't have the physical asset there to verify, then you can't say that you found the asset because there's no supporting evidence of that. So having said that, there was $462,947.88 of discrepancies and unsupported assets that could not be located. And when I say discrepancies, we're talking about discrepancies between POs, discrepancies with amounts, descriptions, and VIN numbers. In addition, there were, four items that were auctioned or disposed of after the audit was completed. However, we could not verify on those auctions, on the 3 auctions, that the item on the fixed asset list was in fact the item that was disposed of. There was no documentation, only pictures given. And myself and the personnel at the division had already reviewed those assets, and there was no identifying mark. They were so old and rusted, there was no identifying markers on the 2 assets. There was one asset that was found that I think you emailed the field ops personnel that he was disposing of the asset and didn't know if that was the asset that was on the fixed asset list. So I think the city should take a pause and actually verify that basically what we're disposing and what we're auctioning is in fact the items on the fixed asset list. But having said that, the asset manager's subsequent review, it does not negate the fact that it doesn't negate the validity of my audit report at all. It actually supports that we needed Chrissy here to go do a deep dive of the assets. Let's see. As far as the telemetry items that were found, the $310,000, was not cloud-based. This is a 900 megahertz radio frequency, which actually every lift station has a telemetry box, okay? They have a tower and a box. So the electronic services division, they actually create or devise the SCADA equipment and they monitor it themselves. So it was not a cloud-based software. This was actually developed and maintained by the city employees, the SCADA employees. Back then, they probably should have split that up instead of having software and hardware together under the $310,000. They should have split it up so it could be identified, but it wasn't, you know. And at the end of the day, I think that the bigger question is, why haven't the finance department reconciled the fixed asset in years? It should be done yearly by the finance department, and I think that if this was done, completed every year, that we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here as far as the fixed asset aspects of it. So if you have any more questions.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Amelia. I do appreciate what you do for us as an internal auditor, and obviously, I think I've maybe bumped into Ms. Chrissy one time, but as an asset manager, again, that was one of your recommendations in your
Right.
internal audit was
Yes.
to hire an asset manager to help track down all of these things. And I don't think it's an intent of, people trying to move stuff around or how to, it's just when you have an organization this big, and if it was the private sector, there'd be very, very detailed inventory controls. And I think that's where we need to get to is, I can't fix what happened in 1975 with the tractor, but what can we do going forward to make sure that we're keeping track and detailed records of everything that's happening and cross-referencing that with different divisions that may loan this generator to this person, this backhoe to that person, and then also making sure that finance is aware of all those comings and goings. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think the enhanced BSNA software will allow us to do that?
I haven't looked at the enhanced version just yet. I'm hoping it would. Have you had a chance to look at it, Chrissy?
I have not seen the advanced, but even the existing one, I think, has the fields that would be useful for us to maintain.
Yeah, and I do feel that we need to take this off of a spreadsheet and put it in some software and, so that we can do yearly, the annual validations and audits and what so have you going forward.
Yeah, because that's my goal, and, hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn on behalf of council, but our goal is to make sure that we put the appropriate safeguards in place so that, nothing does come up missing, that we know where everything is at all times. Unfortunately, when, your software was a spreadsheet over the last, 50 years, that makes it a little difficult, right?
Absolutely.
God help you if you accidentally didn't save it correctly. So we need to make sure that we're investing in that, and hopefully, from the insurances I've gotten, that the new BSA upgrade will hopefully help alleviate some of that. But does anybody else on council have any questions for either Miss Amelia or Miss Chrissy? Member Moscoso?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, ladies, so much for what you do. I had a chance to meet with Amelia and with Chrissy. I know it's maybe your second week on the job.
I've been
You've been at the city
I've
for a while.
been in this position for just over a month.
Okay, so thank you so much. This is a big task to take on. What I noticed from both, what I would have hoped, first of all, is that the asset manager that we would have been able to had you two kind of verified together, because from my understanding is that you went to the different divisions and you asked, hey, do you have this? Can you bring this forward? And you were told no for some of the items. And so of course you go and you put that in your report. And then thankfully you were able to go and they were able to locate those items for you. And so I think that, these audits go together hand in hand. I think it is that, we have weak asset management controls, and that's why we've hired an asset manager. And, there's a lot of work to be done. And so I'm looking forward to moving forward. Thank you for clearing up the telemetry issue. I wasn't sure. From my understanding, you went out there and you asked them, the division, to show you, and they said they didn't even know what it was.
Absolutely.
So of
That's
course you
exactly
put that in your report, and so I'm glad to know that, we want to make sure that we're accurate with the information, that it has appeared, and where it's located. So I just want to thank you both for your work. I know this is not an easy thing to do, and it can be uncomfortable, but I'm hoping moving forward with the new BSNA, we can make sure that we're tracking everything accurately.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Member Stokel?
Yes, thank you. I think that this has been a stressful time for a lot of us. And I think from my perspective, what I'm hoping that we can have as a city, and I mentioned this before, is have more collaboration and have these discussions. Because from my perspective, I think what happened was, I think everybody was trying to do their job. And we had an employee that was abusing the system and was stealing. And then that led to an investigation that was probably rushed with limited resources, doing the best you can to provide a report. I think that report was accurate, but it was also a little misleading in terms of the narrative got shifted from there's $1 million that we can't account for, which when we start to go back through it, there's a difference between somebody stole it, there's fraud, there's waste and abuse, versus we did not have the appropriate record keeping in place. So those are two very different things, I think, that need to be addressed differently. And so, one, if we're having people abusing the system, stealing, that needs to be handled one way. And if we do not, which I feel like that's kind of what happened, if you're asking for, hey, where's this item, and you're not finding it, or nobody's responding, or it's mislocated, that's an issue. And I think part of it was because of the time crunch, quite frankly. I think, would that be accurate? What's your take on that?
Well, what happened is when I gave them the division personnel, the fixed asset list to do the initial verification, I came back in a few days when they were done, and I did my verification. We both did the verification of the assets. And at that time, when he couldn't find those 35 items at 1.2 million, he said that he had talked to division leadership, and they weren't aware of it either. So when you can't explain to the auditor where it is,
Correct.
what it is,
Correct.
how it is, and the leadership there doesn't know, then it becomes a control deficiency. And so I have to note it as a control deficiency, which was done in the audit. And if you read further down in the audit, that's where I start talking about the control issues and needing, asset controls and things of that nature, so.
Right. And I think that's where I'm getting at is those systems need to be better organized because it sounds like for the most part, we did have a lot of these items, but nobody can really account for them appropriately, which I think you presented in your report of a deficiency in that area.
Right.
And then when we brought on the asset manager, you've had more time. Again, this is now 2 people versus 1 person. We have a little more resources, which is our struggle up here is we need to provide good, efficient services. We need to account for everything. We need to answer to the public while lowering taxes, which becomes very challenging. And so that being said, as we move forward, and this is what I was talking to the city manager about, is how can we all collectively work together to make sure that you're not doing your report over here, our asset manager's not over here, division and department heads are over here, not communicating. And when we need something, it's like, oh, if you can't find it, well, it needs to be here. Let's fix this and let's work together for that. That's what I would hope to see. And then my last question is, as you may or may not be aware, we have a council retreat at the end of the month where we are trying to prioritize what are our top priorities with a limited budget. And so that being said, and if you don't have an answer now, maybe try to give us one before our retreat. If there's items that you feel that we should either invest in terms of money, systems, people that you feel like could help with these processes as well, would be beneficial for me.
Okay, give me some time.
Okay, okay. But thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, I think going back to 1970, that was when we were still in horse and buggies, I think. But now, moving forward, maybe this will help us, and maybe there are certain types of software that we can procure that will track these things for us, and each one would be in each one of our shops and divisions, and they can be cross-referenced. So even though this caused us a lot of consternation, moving forward, I think it's going to help us to be able to track better because we realize that the things that were uncovered were things that if they were in some database somewhere or in a cloud base somewhere, we would have been able to identify it. And I appreciate the work of both you ladies. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely, and I think that Chrissy's going to be the glue to that. Before Chrissy, you didn't have the departments communicating with each other. So now you have someone here that she's kind of sort of the glue to this, to everyone, to the purchasing department, the divisions, to finance.
Yeah, I don't mind bugging them.
I don't either. But I think she is going to be that glue to where we can collaborate and move forward in a positive manner.
Member Stokel?
Sorry, one more question. Are we able to go ahead and use BS&A now to do the reconciliation? Because I think we already have that as a step in the right direction.
Well, as you recall, at the mid-year, you did approve the $500,000 to upgrade BS&A, and it does have the asset management module, which will bring us to the point where we'll hopefully be able to reconcile it, and it's being procured as we speak.
And the initial BS&A fixed asset, I went there first to try to reconcile, but I
Okay.
was told by finance I couldn't because everything wasn't in there. So that's why I had to deviate to this finance spreadsheet, capital asset spreadsheet
Okay.
schedule.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. If we've approved it and we already have it, if we can try not to wait on that and move forward, I think that will be a good first step.
Absolutely.
In addition to our asset manager.
Absolutely.
And we have been actively working on that, and we have verified with BS&A that we can use barcodes and scanners, and they'll work together.
Perfect. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much for, jumping up here and telling us, all the information. And hopefully I was able to get you out of here sooner than later, and so you didn't have to wait around all night. So very much appreciate the work you guys do and keep us updated on anything that comes up. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Now we're at petitions and requests on the public non-agenda items. So if you're here to speak on an agenda topic, please wait for that topic to come up. But if it's not an agenda, this is your time. Mr. Johnson.
My name is Stan Johnston, and I'm a professional engineer and a land surveyor with an inactive license, and I'm coming to complain. I complain about some dishonesty that we have with our council members and staff. So right now, I'm offering $50. $50 for anybody here in this audience, anybody here, anybody, especially Joe De Niro, who can find a professional engineer who will disagree with what I'm doing. I'm asking him to do it tonight. I'll give you $50. Okay, so here's what's going on. What are the lies that are going on in the city of Titusville? For 40 years, I'm saying for 40 years, the city of Titusville adopted a plan to build dams in the city. So the mayor says, hey, this looks kind of nutsy. He said, why don't you have it so when a flood comes, you can just open the door? And then James Ball said, he said, aren't you going to flood people? And guess what the response was from the engineers there? This is 1985. No response whatsoever. So right now we have, what I'm telling you again is we have a number of dams that are illegally built, like the dams at the senior center. They have no compensatory storage, no effects of flooding of and taking of property. They're illegal by our Constitution. And what do? Mr. Connors does nothing. Mr. Cole does nothing. And Sarah Stokel does nothing. And I even offer you $50. Find someone who will disagree with me. These are illegal dams. So what have we had in October? What do we have? We had a storm. That according to the storm is you've got a whole bunch of errors in your calculations for 100-year storms. They don't fit. In other words, nobody in Baker's subdivision was flooded in this storm that was supposed to have been about a 500-year storm. They weren't even flooded for the 100-year storm. They're calculated. And people in Temple Terrace, what happened to them? They've been flooded several times since 2012, since those dams were built. In other words, these were before we had the 100-year floods. So are you going to do anything? I don't think so. I don't know what you're going to do. We're asking for help. And I have talked to Sandra Reller a little bit, but it's got to be moving on. These people have been flooded again and again. 12 inches of water in their homes this last time. And I'm saying it's because of these dams, these illegal dams. So I'm asking you to do something about it instead of doing nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
$50.
Mr. Cook, did you want the $50? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Hi, Christopher Childs, Titusville. So I just want to say Amelia is great. I mean, holy cow, what a superstar. I know you already gave her an award, but she probably deserves another one. She's done a great job, very detailed on this. I think there's some gaps, that probably need to be reviewed in between what was found and what was reported on. There's some different names, some different, totals there. I reviewed the memo that came out on the 7th, and there's still some discrepancies there. So I think, even with that said, and I think we're heading in a great direction. I think it's great. And I know there's a difference of, there's this idea of there's $1 million missing. It's not exactly gone, but, through some maybe incompetence or just no, workflows around tracking the stuff, it is, not accounted for. So I think the taxpayers deserve to have that, that clarity around the assets, and I'm glad we're getting there. It's great. And I think that to help it get along its way, we need a forensic audit. And I think it would be well worth it so we can see all of the inefficiencies, because Amelia can't do it all. You know, she can't do all of that, review every single transaction. And that's what a forensic audit could do for us, is to go through every transaction and find every dollar, every cent. And so we can get some clarity as taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen O'Rourke, Titusville resident. I just want to follow up with Chris and say I really support what he said. I'm impressed and thank people for getting the asset manager in. That was a really important thing. But we know some of the problems were really, there was some illegal activity. There has been lack of accountability. And as a citizen, and I hear this from many other citizens of the city, we really want that forensic audit to still continue. So just supporting that idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I know your favorite words up here are accountability, transparency, and trust. Residents are not concerned about one dude that got arrested. That was one person. We're sitting here talking about we've had these problems since the 70s. You're not going to convince the public that it was one person. Incompetence is not an excuse. Neglect is abuse. And when council didn't even know for 9 years that you were supposed to be getting those reports, that's a real problem. It's a very, very big failure in leadership. So if you really want to know what to do about this situation, just listen to the people. The people want a full forensic audit. That's it. It's our money. Spend it the way the people want. And please quit eating up here.
Thank you. Seeing none others for petitions and requests, City Manager, moving on to consent.
Yes, sir. We have 6 items on consent. Are there any items that council wish to pull from the consent agenda?
I'm not seeing any lights, City Manager.
All right, sir, I'll go ahead and I'll read the titles for the record. Consent agenda item 8A, the collective bargaining agreement. Let me pull it up here. Collective bargaining agreement between the International Association of Firefighters, IAFF, Local 244, and the City of Titusville, October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2028. Consent agenda item 8B, the collective bargaining agreement between the Florida State Lodge Fraternal Order of Police, FOP, representing police officer, corporal, sergeant, and dispatcher, and the City of Titusville, October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2028. 8C, the collective bargaining agreement between the Florida State Lodge Fraternal Order of Police, representing lieutenants, and the City of Titusville, October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2028. 8D, the Royal Oak Study Scope of Work. 8E, Resolution number 11-2026, Resolution of Commitment to Florida Main Street. 8F, the Emergency Purchase Order for Traffic Control Devices, LLC. And 8G, Purchase of Sun Valley lots for well field protection.
Thank you very much, City Manager. City Clerk?
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, and I'm going to speak about, on 3 minutes. All I've got is for 1, 2, 3, I think there's 3 or 4 items of the consent agenda item. So I'll use some time on 8G, purchase of Sun Valley lots for wellfield protection. What I have here is that study that I've talked about. 1985 freshwater management study. Here it is. Here it is. And it says, it gives a discussion about the Guyman-Hirschberg principle. The Guyman-Hirschberg, which does not apply to the city of Titusville because we need an unconfined aquifer to apply it that way. Now, what was said at these meetings over 40 years ago is that the city of Titusville was able to gain 40 feet of freshwater aquifer increase, 40 feet for every foot of water they can put by a dam, by raising the water table by 1 foot, we would get 40 feet. That's complete nonsense and disrespect for engineering, engineering laws and everything else. So this is what the city is doing, and I'm asking you, $50. Where is it? Oh, here it is, $50. You get a PE, come in here and dispute me. I'll give you $50. You got lots of PEs, you got consultants and all that. Have them come over here, and I'll tell you, this is dishonest and deceptive what the city has accepted. It's nonsense, complete nonsense. It doesn't work that way. You have to have an unconfined aquifer to work. And they spoke. They said that we were going to get all kinds of water from raising the water just a little bit, 40 feet for every foot. No wonder we built dams, illegal dams. So this is nonsense that continues today. And I've complained about it for over 40 years. And it's still that way because you can't have a professional engineer. Nobody is going to disagree with me because what will I do? Mr. Kevin knows, Mr. Cook knows, Tom knows. I'll report him to the board. And what you are doing is you're living on dishonesty. Dishonesty, continued dishonesty by these three people here and Jolynn Nelson. Dishonesty, that's what I get from the city. Dishonesty and no responsibility, no accountability. You do it, you continue it. You spit on me and you spit on my profession. I don't appreciate what you're doing. And you're doing it on purpose. Just spit, 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 and the piss and poop that you put on people. I don't appreciate it at all. I'm a little bit angry about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. City Clerk?
David Hobart. I believe he left. Elizabeth Baker. Oh, is David Hobart? For item 8D.
We're on consent
It is.
agenda. Item 8B, I believe is what she said.
So I want to really express some major concern about the Royal Oak redevelopment study being conducted by AECOM. It really concerns me that our former water resources director, who resigned under some deeply troubling circumstances, works for them. And, you know, you guys may know that Mr. Stauffer was a city insider that testified under oath that a local advocate was stalking him because they came to public meetings and criticized him after a 7.3 million gallon sewage spill, which was just one of multiple failures during his tenure. But what's more alarming is how some internal audits later suggested that he was likely involved in some of the misconduct or theft. He works for this huge company that now does millions of dollars worth of business in Titusville, including this $78,700 landscaping feasibility study, because that's really important. This is a pattern that we've seen where people resign and they just go on to like work on contract or work in another department. Excuse me? Can you stop my time for a second? Since I want to make sure that people are paying attention.
Keep the time going. Looking down and making a note is paying attention.
Excuse me?
I was looking down to make a note. Is that okay?
Yeah, she's eating, you're taking notes, cool. Cool. Here's what I want. I want to be guaranteed that Mr. Stauffer does not have anything to do with any kind of stormwater infrastructure or flood mitigations in Titusville. He should not be anywhere near anything going on in this city. The man that replaced him, that worked under him for 20 years, was just arrested. We see this over and over and over again. So please, just get a written guarantee that he won't have anything to do with this project. The people at Royal Oak have already suffered, and we need to prioritize accountability here. Not just another person that resigns and goes somewhere else.
Thank you. City Clerk?
David Hobart.
Dave, forgot my water. Name's David Hobart, on the Royal Oak. We've already had a meeting about this. They don't want it redeveloped. I mean, it's $80,000 of taxpayer dollars. If the developer wants to do it, have them pay for it. I mean, there's no reason. Royal Oak's gonna fight it anyways, so it's just a waste of money. That's all.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Tony Sheffalo.
Sheffalo Tropic Street. I don't live in Royal Oak, but I have the same concerns these two prior people have had. This huge company, I can't even say their name, ACOM International. Look at the projects they've done. They're horrible, terrible things. They're associated with terrible, horrible people who do war type things. I can go all the way back to the war in Iraq with and the horrible things they did. It was a baby formula factory. I have good evidence of that from my work at CNN and our investigative reporters. It was not manufacturing weapons of mass destruction. So that just goes to show how that people that are associated with this company, and one of the projects they did in Florida is the big center over, the big civic center, the big performance hall, I can't even call its name, Phillips Center over in Orlando. I don't think they have anything really to do with wasn't this supposed to be a plan where you got together with the neighborhood, the people who were being affected, and the city, and the developer who wants to do something that the citizens don't want in their town, and try and come to a solution to make a new plan, and why you're going to pay $77,510 to this big company to come in here and to develop a plan? Can't you just meet with the citizens of Royal Oak and the developer and talk with them about what you want to have done? You know what we want to have done with that area. This is just a total sham and a waste.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Earl Johnson. Earl Johnson.
Good evening, Council. Earl Johnson. I'd just like to share some observations and perceptions on the small-scale study. It seems a contract was let sole source. I saw an RFP go out, but didn't see anyone bid on it. So we didn't see any competitive bids. Perhaps the window was too short for a response. I don't know. Anyway, it was a good RFP, but so ACOM does, though, appear to have which you're going to vote on this evening, they appear to have a very close association with the lobbyist for the developer applicant, which kind of calls into questions a non-competitive selection of them for this study. And it creates a perception of a pro-development bias right from the outset. At this time, the non-competitive selection of ACOM for the study just appears to have a veneer of credibility, and underneath it, not so much so. But regardless of the ACOM selection, the community expected to be an active participant in this study. We requested the study to be facilitated by an independent third party, as was done with the resources study, which was a great model. This study does not align with that expectation. We also requested a workshop so citizens could provide input on priorities and conclusions that are prior to the conclusions are being formed on the study. The staff also, surprisingly to me, saw fit to include the 2016 draft golf course redevelopment ordinance to ACOM, which I viewed as seeding the study, resulting in a bias from the outset, as in my opinion, that's sort of a clear signal on the city staff's desire for this property. So that does not align with the residents' desires. And this draft ordinance was denied by council back in 2016. It's now 10 years old, and a lot has changed since then. So I don't really feel like it has much bearing on what we're looking at today. The draft ordinance also presupposed that the parcel would be residential housing or commercial. And it also further presupposed PD zoning overlay, which would wipe out all of the open space recreational zoning, of which almost 30% of the property is. Why does it always seem to be the city versus residents? I know that may not be the intent, but certainly frequently the perception is that. And some key players here appear much more pro-development and not so much pro-resident. It would be nice if everything were just neutral. Also, the flume, the overarching comprehensive plan and other policies are supposed to be well thought out directions.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. City Clerk, are there any other cards?
Yes, sir. Vicki Conklin.
Good evening, Vicki Conklin. Tonight I want to speak about public confidence and the processes that are surrounding this proposed ACOM small area study of the Royal Oak property. The community spent a lot of years raising concerns about flooding, drainage density. We've all had those concerns with infrastructure and strain and the traffic. And we've attempted to determine how this ACOM contract has come about. We've requested public records. We've had meetings. The court group and I have had meetings with Brad and with Mr. Abadi and with the city attorney. And we've really thought we had generated some really good agreements and concerns of how we could work together coming forward with this. But this process doesn't seem to reflect that. And so we're interested in what formal procurement process was used, and we'd like those explanations. It seems to be there's a conflict of interest, and there's a photograph I want to show you of, it's been circulating. And this is a photograph maybe taken a few years ago, but it shows ACOM. Maybe they made a donation to the Y, which would be very generous of them and commendable. But there's Mr. Robin Fisher, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. And this. However, Mr. Fisher is a lobbyist for Toulon. He's a lobbyist for Coulter. And so his affiliation and relationship with ACOM, it raises suspicions. Maybe they're grounded, maybe they're not. But in the public perception, that's what it is. And so the appearance of that interconnected relationship just really raises a lot of questions. So we want these future decisions with the residents, stakeholders involved. And so we're requesting that the city release the procurement documentation. Public records didn't show that. The task order or the contract, the public records did not reveal that. The selection rationale, the public records did not reveal that. And any conflict review materials related to this engagement. Transparency protects the residents, the stakeholders, the city, and the credibility of the study itself. Surely to goodness, we're a major city, and we can find consultants that don't have conflicts already with this city.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Kathleen O'Rourke.
Dr. Kathleen O'Rourke, and I'm going to talk a little bit about another aspect here. Earlier in this process, Royal Oak neighbors met with Tom Abadi, and he assured us that the citizens would have active participation in the process. Now, I reviewed the ACOM scope of work, and we have serious concerns about the quality and timing of proposed or supposed, might be a better word, public involvement. According to the scope of work document, during the kickoff workshop, ACOM will present a summary of preliminary scenario analysis and solicit feedback from the public. Then during the second workshop, they state they will gather input on the scenarios and solicit feedback on the recommended course of action. Respectfully speaking, that is not true community participatory planning. That is a consulting firm developing scenarios internally, determining a recommended course of action, and then asking the residents to react to these recommendations after the framework has already been established. Meaningful public participation occurs before scenarios and recommendations are developed, not after. If the city truly intends to be a community-driven process, then the public must participate in shaping the options themselves, not simply reacting to consultant-created recommendations. We're also concerned, as Vicki just spoke, that the city appears to have selected an existing consultant with whom it has established relationship rather than seeking firms with demonstrated expertise in collaborative community planning and participatory engagement. Your universities are a great source of these people. This project involves flooding, land use, density, infrastructure, and neighborhood protection. These are issues with long-term consequences for the resident and for the city themselves. For this reason, I respectfully ask the council not to approve the current scope of work and instead consider firms with stronger backgrounds in community participation and collaborative planning processes. At a minimum, the scope should be revised to require substantial citizen involvement, which we were told we would have before scenarios and recommendations are developed. Public trust depends on the residents having a meaningful role in shaping decisions before conclusions are reached. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Elizabeth Parker.
Elizabeth Parker, Davino Circle. Reviewing this study, I was fascinated to see it's a rehash of everything we've been going through for the last 3 years. Essentially, they're saying, we're going to take everything the developers put together and we're going to rehash it and put it in a new format for you, and you can give us new comments, which we'll ignore. Very disappointing. And the exclusions of this project are exceptionally disappointing as well. This is not just any piece of property. This is a piece of property that acts as a sponge for a 500-acre basin. It's got a soil 52 candler high recharge stands, and it produces approximately 144 million gallons a year of fresh water for our city. So in order to satisfy a competent, substantial study, we need to be looking at things that this study specifically excludes. The hydrologic and hydrogeologic modeling is critical, excluded. There should be a vertical recharge analysis. There should be basin interconnectivity analysis. There should be a study to prove that relocating basins would not cause a dam effect. There should be a FEMA floodplain analysis. There should be environmental and wetland assessments based on the 1943 aerial photographs. It's clear that these are natural depressional wetlands and not man-made ponds per our comp plan 10.3.21. This needs to be considered. There should be a UMAM analysis under Florida Code 62-345. Mitigation assessment method is critical to quantify the functional value of the sponge this property performs as. There should be a fiscal impact and utility modeling economic analysis. There should be planning and legal nexus analysis. A certified planner should be looking at this. And there should be not just, residential compatibility, but a viewshed compatibility. This study is worthless. We are spending $77,510 to learn what we already have heard from the developers, using a traffic plan based on declining traffic during the COVID years. We've already given this company $1,457,885. I'd like to know, where was the RFP? Because I am on the list to receive them, and I did not see an RFP for this project. So as a citizen who's living in this community and is concerned for the well-being of our city, I am extremely distressed that this is what we're going to base any redevelopment on. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Daniel Lewis.
Hello, I'm Dan Lewis, and I'm a homeowner there at 3525 Palmer Drive. A lot of you know it because Kathleen lives there too. Anyway, everybody brought up so many good points about this thing that I'm not left with a lot. But I do remember when our son graduated with his PhD, he'd done a lot of work in statistics. And so we got to talking about it, and when we did, it finally got around to the thing where he said, well, I'll tell you what, you tell me the outcome and I'll make the statistics work. So, what it means is you can listen to all these experts on all kinds of different things, but, they're like hired guns. They're paid to do that job. And it seems here, although we thought we had negotiated some sort of a small area study that included a lot of participation, that what really has happened is you've got Brad Parrish running it, and Brad's just convinced this 2016 study is the way to go, and he actually wanted to move forward with the plan that Coulter and Toulon presented in the first place. So there's a bit of prejudice there. And then you go out and you hire a firm, ACOM, that has a long history of site planning and development and things like that. Their whole spring-loaded motivation is to dig it up and develop it and build houses. So nobody else was given any opportunity input on this thing, and it just seems like what you're creating here is a $78,000 disaster. What's going to happen is you're going to do this thing, they're going to try to ram it down our throats. It's going to be another end run around trying to get this development thing done as Toulon and Coulter wanted it. And in the end, everybody's going to be all upset about it. We're going to have to bring in hundreds of people again, yelling, screaming to bring the pitchforks. And we don't want to do that. What we really want to do is come up with a really good solution that works for everybody. And it's not going to work for Toulon the way they planned it originally. It's not going to probably work for the citizens the way they really wanted it originally. But hopefully we come up with some middle ground. But it isn't going to happen if the players in the game aren't open-minded to a lot of other changes, and it doesn't seem like that's the way it is. So hopefully we can come up with a better idea, but spending $78,000 on this thing is just, you might as well throw a party and everybody be a lot happier, or flush it down the toilet or do something. But, we lost $1 million worth of assets out there. Why spend all this money with a company that you know is going to be a big problem in the end? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Yes, sir. We have one last card for consent. It's Lisa Mosier, and I think she's declining to speak.
Thank you very much. City Council? City Council, Member Moscoso?
Yes, thank you. I have a lot of notes, so let me see if I can make them coherent. I do think the intent behind this was to do something good for the community. I know that our city manager added additional funds so that we could have more community input. So I think the heart behind it was good, and maybe it was misinterpreted. I also want to say, as for Mr. Stauffer, I've repeatedly asked them to confirm that he would not be on the project if it were moving forward, and that was confirmed again tonight. There are some things I do like about it. I like that we were trying something. I like that we were looking for the public that maybe isn't aware. There were 4 different things that they were going to be looking at, maybe a stormwater park, passive parks, so different things. I do like that the study included not only those options, but it included possible sources of how we would get the funding. So I thought that was a positive thing. What I don't like is we're consistently ping-ponging between two companies, AECOM and Kemley Horn. And I don't think this went out for an RFP from my understanding, but Kevin, maybe you can speak to that. I think it was one of those, we know that the community would not want Kemley Horn, and so it went to AECOM. Can you confirm that, or did it go out for an RFP?
Well, this is under the master agreement for our consultants where we award, there's 5 consultants on that contract. AECOM and Kemley Horn are the only 2 awarded the public works side, and then the others are utility oriented. So the others don't have a planning function. They're solely utility oriented, the other 3. So.
Okay.
The RFP was a 2017 award and 2020 RFP for continuing consultant services.
Okay. So I thought there were some really good suggestions. Tony, I like the idea of the community and the developer sitting down. I'm not sure what result we would get from that, but it's always good to try to talk with people. You know, I don't know if Royal Oak would be interested in presenting some solutions that they could see being feasible. One thing I was thinking is we just approved a $700,000 stormwater study, and so it might be good to wait until that comes back to actually see what that says, because a lot of the things Ms. Baker was recommending, I'm hoping the stormwater study will show us some of that. And so it might be good to put a pause on this. I'm up for, maybe putting out a different RFP, or maybe putting a pause until we can actually see what that stormwater study does. Because I love that suggestion of all the things it could look into, but that is going to be very expensive. And we have something that we're hoping will do that as well. So those would be my suggestions on this.
Member Stokel?
Yeah, I think my thing that I was hoping for with the study was the stormwater specifically. And as I was going through it, looking at the exclusions, it looked like off-site utility stormwater or roadway improvements, environmental site and assessments, wetland. Those were my key areas that I was hoping to get from this study. And I feel like I think the format itself could be doable if we were to move citizen input toward the beginning, and then scenarios. I'm not opposed to the scenarios presented, but I think if citizen input was at the beginning and then they could potentially add scenarios, I'd be okay. Before I want us to spend $70,000, I feel like I do want to know more about the stormwater. I just had a citizen from that area text me from the rainstorm today what it looks like, and I said, we could come up with a good idea, but until I feel confident about the stormwater part, I feel like I would not be able to make an informed decision. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Thank you, Member Stokel. And I think it's also important to remind everybody how we got here was, we listened to the citizens and did not approve the project unanimously. And the citizens said we wanted to study. And I think Tom was just working hard to get a study done to help alleviate their concerns and make sure that we had a solid plan going forward. The study obviously doesn't sound ideal, but we'll see what we can do on this. Vice Mayor Cole, I don't feel good about it either.
I don't, and I guess my question is, when we talked about this initially, we said that we would have, total citizen involvement in it, and that's what I didn't see. I agree with Member Moscoso that maybe we should do the stormwater study first, because the stormwater study may reveal a lot of things that this small-scale study won't reveal. So I don't feel good about it either.
All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve items A, B, C, E, F, G.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve items A, B, C, E, F, G. Motion by Member Stokel, seconded by Vice Mayor Cole. Any further discussion from this board? City Clerk?
Member Moscoso?
Yes.
Mayor Connors?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cole?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
All right, can I have a motion to not approve item 8D?
I'll make a motion to not approve item 8D.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Cole, a second by Member Moscoso. Any further discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk?
Mayor Connors,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cole,
Yes.
Member Stokel,
Yes.
Member Moscoso.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. City Manager?
So moving on to ordinances, second reading, or actually, it's public hearing. And the following item is subject to quasi judicial procedures. So the city attorney will go ahead and read those procedures, then I'll introduce the item.
During the public hearing portion of this meeting, anyone wishing to speak on a quasi-judicial item must complete and sign a speaker card along with the corresponding oath on the card. The cards are located on the table in the front of chambers. City staff will make the initial presentation, and then the applicant will present. Then the hearing will be open for public comments, and those who wish to make a public comment on the item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if they desire. Witnesses may be cross-examined, and all photographs, sketches, documents for the hearing must be submitted to the city clerk and will be retained by the city. Members, please disclose any ex parte communications or site visits at this time.
Member Moscoso?
No, none.
Vice Mayor Cole?
I've received numerous texts, but it has not swayed me one way or the other.
Member Stokel?
None.
I actually got asked about this while I was doing occupational therapy one day, but I just informed them about the process, so I'm good. Thank you. All right, City Manager?
Yes, sir. So this is the 9A Public Purpose Variance Application Number 1-20, and this is 2026. This is to consider the requested variance to allow impervious surface coverage to exceed the maximum limits established within the areas of critical concern and potable water wellhead protection zones for property located at 665 North Singleton Avenue, Titusville, Florida. And I'll have Brad introduce the item.
The staff report, or the portion of the staff report I'm going to start with, is on page 376 of your packet. We'll just go into a little bit of the background. The property is zoned P, public. The surrounding districts, subject property is bordered by a mix of public and residential zoning districts. The properties to the east is the Arthur Dunn Airport, which is also publicly zoned. To the west are residential properties within the Gardendale neighborhood, which are zoned single family. The site also fronts North Singleton Avenue, a collector road that provides access to the surrounding residential area and adjacent public uses. The property consists of approximately 4.4 acres and is developed as an existing community park. It's owned by Brevard County. The area of proposed improvements encompasses approximately 1.4 acres within the larger parcel. The site is generally rectangular in shape, so there's nothing unusual about the shape of the property. There are recreational facilities on the property, several tennis courts, racquetball courts, and open space and circulation areas. On page 377, or I'm sorry, on the bottom of page 376 rather, and 377 are the criteria. This is called a variance, or rather a public purpose variance before you. So it's not before the Board of Adjustment, it's before the City Council. The criteria are specific for you to consider, separate from the Board of Adjustment. They include the project has been found to serve a public purpose, so you have to establish that. The second criteria is the granting of the variance is consistent with the overall intent of the regulations. It would not be contrary to the public interest. The variance granted is the minimum necessary to make possible full implementation of the public purpose project. The activity would provide direct public benefits, which would exceed those that may be lost to the public. And finally, the applicant has demonstrated a bona fide need for the variance based upon operational necessity and due to the conditions of the project and/or property, the literal application or enforcement of the city's regulations would result in a practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship. So the onus is on the applicant to prove the hardship. On page 378 of your packet, I'm just going to refer to one paragraph there that specifically describes the actual variances. There are 3 variances here for you to consider. You can make a motion on each variance separately, or you can do them collectively. Section 30-207, paragraph A-B limits impervious surface coverage within the area of critical concern on wellfield areas to 40% on each property. So whatever's being proposed developed can't exceed that 40%. The applicant is asking for relief from that standard to go up to 52.26%. Section 30-207A6 of the code establishes more restrictive limits near municipal wells. There's a well very close to this property, and the limitation is 20% within a certain distance of that well. The applicant is requesting to exceed that up to 34.73%. And then in the same section, there is another distance between 300 and 750 feet of that well. There is a maximum 25% threshold, and the applicant is asking to exceed that up to 66.6%. On page 379, we reviewed the criteria. We looked at the hardship. We believe that the staff can support the request, so we recommend approval of these 3 variances. You will see on page 388 of your packet an aerial to kind of illustrate the location of the property and what's currently there on the property now. We did not include in your packet the exhibit that was submitted to us by the applicant that showed the actual improvements. We have given that to you separately. And those include pickleball courts, an expanded bathroom, restroom area, and impervious surfaces for a driveway and some parking spaces. With that, I'll try to answer any questions you have. The applicant is also here to answer any questions.
Member Stokel?
Yes, that was my question, actually, because I have been looking at 388, and I guess I'm wondering, where do the pickleball courts go? I'm very familiar with that space as it currently is, so how much of that open space grass is proposed to be developed in ratio to this, I guess? And then that's one portion, if you want to do that part first. And then my second question has more to do with the well field and that impact, I guess.
Sure. So the actual improvements are going to be located, if you look at the aerial, you'll see on the tennis courts at the very bottom, the very southern tennis courts, just to the west of them or southwest of them, there will be some pickleball courts, and they're proposed to have 4 of them there. There is a structure to the north of the property where there's sidewalks on both sides. It's a very small structure. That is supposed to be expanded to make the restrooms ADA compliant.
Okay.
And then to the west, along Singleton, there is it looks like a gravel driveway that's supposed to be improved. So overall, it's about 1.4 acres of land that will be improved.
How many courts will be built in addition to what's already there with the tennis courts?
4 pickleball courts, from my
4,
understanding.
okay. And then the rest of it will stay open space as it is?
Yes.
Okay, and then now fast forwarding to the well-filled area, so say this gets approved, what does that mean in terms of our water supply?
We believe it would be negligible because
It won't impact it at all, it's fine, we want to be cautious, but with this amount of improvements, it should not impact it.
we believe that the impact is minimal. So we believe it meets the minimum variance necessary, mainly because of the adjacent properties.
Because of all the that's what I was wondering. And so assuming that stays zoned as it is and the land use is there, we shouldn't have an issue. Now, if that were to get different land use or rezoning potentially then.
That's possible, yes. So we'd have to
Okay.
consider it then.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from council have questions for Mr. Parrish? Seeing none, City Clerk?
We have the applicant here, Mike Butcher and David Tom.
If there's any questions, we have our engineer here, but I think Brad did a good job of presenting.
Thank you very much.
David Hobart.
I wish you would have put the improvements on the agenda because it would have made life a whole lot easier for me. Pickleball is a big craze now. It is great to have them, but it's not really worth sacrificing any need water, dehydrated. Any of the green space or the aquifer, don't really need to build new. 2 tennis courts will make 6 pickleball courts. Not so many people play tennis there anymore. There's more pickleball, so you can just convert the one, and then you won't have to worry about it. It's a whole lot cheaper to do. There's plenty of companies that do it. It's actually a booming business right now. So that's all.
Thank you. City Clerk?
The last card is Stan Johnston.
My name is Stan Johnson. I'm an engineer, and I am for this project. I don't think it's that detrimental. I'm looking at how this was adopted, the area of critical concern. It happens to be by this same project, 1985 freshwater management study. So what has happened in the last 40 years? Well, in the last 40 years, the city of Titusville has not revised their areas of critical concern. Let me say that again. In the last 40 years, we've had numerous wells that have been abandoned, not shown in this study, and there has not been any changes in the area of critical concern. I find that to be a problem, and it's a restriction that shouldn't be had on some properties. I know that I lived on Evergreen Avenue for many years, and we had a street over, Grove Street, we had numerous wells that are now abandoned. So what I'm trying to say is that the city doesn't know what they're doing in many ways with this study, freshwater management study. In other words, we're not updating it, and we've created nonsense by building these dams that we have in the city. So I don't think I have anything else to share, but it's got something written here. It has questions that are unanswered that I've answered before. Like, for example, how in the world can we build dams and then have them lower the 100-year floodplain by over a foot? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. City Clerk, are there any others? No, sir. All right, thank you. Mr. Ian, I do have a question for you. Either one. I mean, it's more of a process issue because, I have been asked about that from the public as to why we're looking at new pickleball courts versus, maybe refurbishing and remodeling some of the tennis courts. And while this is a county park and this is a county project that just happens to be in our city, it's not really us to design that, but it is, I think, a fair question.
Sure. Ian Golden, Brevard County Parks and Recreation Department. What we have found is that once we provide a service, an amenity, when we take that away, we get pushback. We did have the funds available and the space available once we get through this process to add additional amenities there. And as you heard earlier, we do want to make sure that we make ADA compliance on the bathroom as well as provide more stable surfaces for the driveway and some parking.
And another thing to add to that, David Tom with Construction Engineering Group, is the pickleball port option of going on to the tennis courts was brought up, but it was decided that with the use of the tennis courts as they are now, they held tournaments there. You guys have held tournaments there, I think. The high school uses the courts as well for tournaments. And I think you asked, sorry, I didn't get your name, but the courts are 60 by 120 feet. And then we also are adding a stormwater pond there, a large dry retention area to treat all of this new impervious that we're providing. We're not relying on any existing permits that were already issued to the city in the past, so that we did a new permit, and we have that St. John's has issued that permit to us. And so they're out in front of the parking that's there that was just gravel It's all being stabilized now, and the parking is going to remain as grass parking, but the driveway will be paved. And we did also add 2 handicap parking spaces there as well for ADA accessibility, along with the new bathroom. So we've kept it as small as we could. We've listened to the city. We've been talking to the city for over 2 years on this project, trying to minimize as much impact as we needed to get this completed.
Thank you very much for the explanation. Now, one last question. Are you guys cutting down any trees to build the pickleball court?
I think we do have a removal of a tree or 2. Let me check real quick. The answer is no, we are not.
Okay.
No trees, and we'll be putting, we have made a submittal to the city staff, and they've made comments, and after we get through this process, we'll finish responding to those. But we do have some additional landscaping that's being put around the bathroom building.
Thank you very much. That was just a concern I heard, was that, the one shade tree that's there was coming down to build the pickleball courts, and I just wanted to.
No, the big tree is remaining. There's one big one right next to the retention pond, and we stayed away from that, and we're protecting that.
Well, I very much appreciate y'all doing that. It's just when I looked at it on the map, I was like, I don't think this is impacting the tree, but from the aerial view of where the shade is, it's kind of hard to tell. So I just wanted to confirm with you guys. I appreciate you very much for answering my questions. Did anybody else have any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes. Well, I'm going to make the motion, but I also want to say that if they were to put the pickleball courts on the tennis court, it makes it a little complicated for tennis players because that puts a lot of lines on a tennis court. They're already there? Okay, all right.
All right.
So my motion is the public purpose variance application number 1, 2026 Singleton Tennis Courts, 665 North Singleton Avenue. I move for approval.
All right, we're going to call these votes individually. So
Second.
The first one will be, the motion will be made for section 30-207A, subsection 5. So is that your motion?
Yes.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Cole. I have a second by Member Stokel. Discussion?
I just had a comment to make, and it's a little bit off topic, but I don't know if you remember me. You actually taught me how to play pickleball at the Y. So anyway, thank you.
All right, so I have a motion by Vice Mayor Cole to approve section 30-207A, subsection 5 of the public purpose variance, and second by Member Stokel. City Clerk?
Vice Mayor Cole,
Yes.
Member Stokel,
Yes.
Member Moscoso,
Yes.
Mayor Connors.
Yes. Can I have a motion to approve the public purpose variance, section 30-207A, subsection 6?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Cole, second by Member Stokel. Any further discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk?
Member Stokel,
Yes.
Member Moscoso,
Yes.
Mayor Connors,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cole.
Yes.
And can I have a motion to approve the public purpose variance, section 30-207A, subsection 6B?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Cole, second by Member Stokel. Any discussion? City Clerk?
Member Moscoso,
Yes.
Mayor Connors,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cole,
Yes.
Member Stokel.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate the county working with us to improve that park. Thank you very much. All right. City Manager, I believe we're on to the Landscape Gateway
Yes, sir. The next
Feasibility
item
Study.
is item 11, old business, item A, and that is the Landscape Gateway Improvement Feasibility Study. As you recall, back on August 12th, 2025, at the City Council meeting, you authorized staff to evaluate the advisability of hiring a landscape consultant to assess landscaping throughout the city, focusing on city entryways, major corridors, rights-of-way, medians on both state and city-maintained roads within city limits. And the recommended action is to provide direction on the task proposal from ACOM Technical Services for the landscape gateway improvement feasibility study in the amount of $78,700. And our Public Works Director is here to answer any questions.
Thank you, City Manager. City Clerk?
David Hobart.
He did leave. If he comes back in, we'll call him up. Is there?
Elizabeth Baker.
So once again, we're looking at ACOM. It seems like an awful lot of money to study how we're going to make things pretty when we have a lot of infrastructure problems. It's what I really just want to make sure of is that our ex-water resources director doesn't have any hand in anything that goes on here. That's all.
Thank you very much. City Clerk?
Tony Schifolo.
These are my notes. I've been following the Gateway project for a while. The city's engaged ACOM to design selected gateways in major intersections. This initiative focuses on transferring ordinary crossings into memorable gateways. The primary goal is to evaluate the city's plant palettes and signage, creating a cohesive visual identity and branding that reflects the community's values and sense of place. Those are quotes. Sound familiar? It should. We've had that study done already. Where's the marketing alliance firm that you hired a couple of months ago to promote and brand the city? Can't they do that? And what about your beloved Kimley Horn? My file folder dated September 25th for lands of 2025 for landscape gateway plan shows that March 10th, 2020, council approved a work order to Kimley Horn for $25,180 to provide landscape design for 9 gateway locations, Mr. Mayor, 6 of which are on this proposal tonight. May 2021, Kimley Horn presented their plan. August 2021, council approved unanimously landscape gateway and signage work to Kimley Horn, this time for $29,959.84 for the final design of selected gateways, the addition of 2 gateway concepts, and gateway signage designs. This is 2021. October of 2021, Laura Lee Thompson made a presentation about TEC's motion to amend the resolution so that at least 50% of the Landscape Trust Fund of $423,000, which you were usurping to use for this gateway stuff, but that 50% should be prioritized for canopy trees and places for public benefit, leaving over $200,000, Mayor, to make the gateways. I stood before council to ask you to consider using the Landscape Trust Fund for urban forestry projects, rather than spending the majority of the fund on these landscape concept plans. August 27th, 2024, council awarded landscape gateway contract for $566,173.63 to construct 2 landscape gateway improvements. I'm going to take a little bit more time. I got 2 more paragraphs. Then at the August 12th, 2025 council meeting, council was blindsided by the mayor who authorized staff to evaluate hiring a landscape consultant to assess landscaping throughout the city, focusing on city entryways and major corridors, gateways. Redundant much?
Thank you.
Tonight, I'm going to finish.
Please have a
Tonight, the
seat.
cost to taxpayers will be
Ms.
$78,700 for a
Please have a
landscape
seat.
gateway improvement
Ms.
feasibility
Schiflo,
study
don't wanna have to ask you
for
to
a
leave.
few dollars more. Why don't
You
you
are out of
why don't
order.
you just let me
You are
finish,
out of
please? 30
order.
seconds. May I have
Please
30
have a
seconds?
Can I make a motion to give Mr. Flo an extra 30 seconds?
For a
There's
few
a motion.
dollars,
I don't see a second. The motion. There's a
for a
second.
few dollars
But
more.
that doesn't mean there's a vote.
Go ahead and vote.
All right. Call the roll. City Clerk?
For a few dollars more, why don't you have staff, the TEC, taxpayers, and council review the $55,000 study done by Kimley Horn just 2 years ago and have the gateways done the way they proposed it?
Thank you, Ms. Schifelo. Please keep under order. City Clerk, I think David Holbarth.
Yes, David Hobart?
Sorry about that. I was going over the plans that weren't posted on the agenda with the county guys. So the landscape program, I'm kind of confused how it's the same price as the Royal Oak proposal. The Royal Oak's a lot bigger proposal, has meetings, things like that. How is it the exact same price? Seems like they're ripping you off, honestly. That's basically it.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Kathleen O'Rourke?
You know how they say you learn something new all the time? Well, I've just learned something new, and it seems to me that we have ACOM or we have Kimley Horn, and those are the two options that we just go to when we want something, and we don't look for who might be best. I really believe that Tom Abadi wanted our study to have community participation.
City Clerk?
But you don't have anybody out there who's able to do this because you're just giving these contracts to only these two people and not open RFPs. So my question for the council is, what is the dollar amount at which you need to advertise to others than those you have pre-selected? Is there one? How is this process? Because I never knew, and I've been coming here a long time, I never knew this was the way it worked. So any information for a citizen who's trying to figure out how this happened?
If you're going to yield the rest of your time, I'll have staff answer.
Sure. I'm just standing here waiting in case they ask me
If you're
something.
yielding the rest of your time.
I'm yielding.
Kevin?
I believe the CCNA construction requirement's 7.5 million, and studies are $750,000 that you must go out. You cannot use continuing services for anything above $750,000 million for a study or 7.5 million. It's category 4 under the statute. I think they moved it up to 7.5 million for construction costs. So any study below 750,000 can be used. Any of the consulting services that were awarded on a continuing contract under CCNA can be utilized.
Interesting. Well, it's a sad state.
City Clerk?
Laura Lee Thompson?
Orly Thompson, Mims, Florida. So we spent all that money on 2 landscape projects at I-95 and 50 and I-95 and State Road 406. And within 2 months after the landscaping went in, the areas looked worse than they did before the landscaping went in because the weeds were taller than the flowers. The city does not have a very good track record of maintaining these projects once they go in, and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of the citizens' money that came out of the Landscape Trust Fund, and that money is put into the Landscape Trust Fund by developers who clear-cut subdivisions to put in houses. And so that money it should be used to plant more canopy trees in areas in the city that need shade and need trees. Should not be used on planting flowers out by I-95 that are just going to get ignored, and then they were the wrong kind of plants that can't survive a freeze. So the final straw was when they all froze. So I made a point of going by Highway 50 intersection at I-95 on my way to the meeting tonight, and it looks better now with the grass that's growing there than it did when the landscaping was there. I think that, I don't know where the money is going to come from to pay for the $78,000, but we just, like Tony said, we just 2 years ago paid Kimley Horn to do the exact same thing. And we spent $500,000 out of the Landscape Trust Fund to do 2 intersections that now are completely mowed over and grass is growing there again. And I think we should put the brakes on this proposal and talk about what it is that we want. But I think that the money should not come out of the Public Landscape Trust Fund. I think that that money should be used to plant canopy trees to replace the trees that were torn down to begin with. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
The last card is Stan Johnston.
Sarah had some nice things to say. Really hot things to say. Okay, should we wait for her?
You have the floor, Mr. Johnson.
I wish she was here to hear this, because I'm going to say something that you're not going to like hearing. It's about a guy that a lot of you guys like him a whole lot. And he's with AE, and I didn't know till today that he is with AECOM, Mr. Fisher, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Fisher in 2012 was the county commissioner for us, and he did some good things. He got a bunch of roads paved in Scottsmore and so forth. He did about 100 miles of it. Should have been done a long time ago. We had some good people in the county to do that, and I worked on that in the county. I came to visit Mr. Cole because of these dams that were built at the senior center, which is Brevard County property. And I said, they're illegal. They're illegal. And I explained to him and so forth like that, is that, that at that time they were flooding the streets. Fish were going flooding the streets, and we had videos on our overheads and so forth of flooding and fish swimming in the streets.
You're cautioned for not being on topic.
Okay, well, okay. I do not want to approve anything that's involved with Mr. Fisher, because what he did is he approved that project, and it had no calculations for a dam, no calculations, no survey of what it did. And it had other things. It had, took property. So Mr. Fisher, I hope he's listening to this, but he lied. He lied big time. And he's with this AECOM. That's a horrible lie. It breaks all kinds of laws in engineering, and as far as I'm concerned, I was spit on by him. And so was the other people right now who are flooded by these 2 dams. Mr. Fisher was very much, did wrong things.
Mr. Johnson, have a seat. You're off topic.
Yeah, I was just saying that I won't vote for anybody
Thank you.
who uses this
seat.
AECOM.
Thank you.
And I think that's an issue.
Well, we're talking about trees. Have a seat.
Okay, I have a seat, but I'm doing it under, what do you call it, duress.
All right.
Thank you.
City Clerk? All right. Welcome back, Member Stokel. Thank you. Yes. So, Mr. Cook, I'm looking at the scope of the project, and it doesn't appear that this overlaps with the 95 entrances of 50 in Garden Street. Am I correct in reading that?
You're correct. I'll answer for.
All right. So it's the rest of the city that wasn't basically on our commercial corridors. And step 1 in planting any trees in the medians of our state roads, US 1, 50, Garden Street, is FDOT requires you to have a landscape architect do the design. Is that correct?
If they're in the state roads, yes.
Yes. So the goal here was to put together a plan so that we can beautify the streets of Titusville. Yes, using funds from the Transportation Trust Fund, which if you cut down a tree, whether it's a developer or non-developer, you pay into that fund. So we are using these funds to put together a plan to beautify our city with new plantings. Now, it might not be ideal, exactly what everybody wants, but at the end of the day, the goal was to move a little bit more forward and plant more trees. So that's my saying it. I didn't ambush, but the goal of this council is to bring up ideas and things that we hear from the community, because I represent the entire community, and I was, somebody came to me with this idea. I didn't come up with it myself, but I thought it was a good idea, and I felt like it was worth having that discussion. Council agreed, and now here we are, where we have an opportunity to move forward with this project or not. Member Moscoso.
Thank you. I think the intent was good, that we wanted to beautify, so I would agree with you on that. I think we have to look at our track record, and that is my main concern. You're right, this doesn't include the corridors that were previously done. I am very salty about this. Every time I drive and go to 95, I am just shocked by it. And I asked for the numbers, and I just want to make sure everyone knows it was over 600,000, not 500,000. For small plants on 50 and 95, 120,000. For large plants, 39,000. For State Road 406 and 95, 160,000 for small plants. And for large plants, 111,000. And then there's numbers for irrigation and things like that. And you're right, it's all dead. I mean, it looked beautiful the first day, but then trash started getting in there and grass started growing up and it couldn't be cut. And now you've got these large weeds. I know they're holding on to some of those plants, but I don't want history to repeat itself, especially if we don't know, if we don't have a maintenance plan. I did talk to Michael Myjack today from the TEC, and he mentioned the urban forest and how they're doing a study, and that might be able to include part of this. I also asked how much money we had left in the tree mitigation fund, and that's over $800,000. So that's important to know. So I think the idea was good. For me, I don't feel like we are able to, unfortunately, keep things maintained. Perhaps where it's lack of staff, or I'm not sure what the issue is, but I do not want to approve a study and then possibly more plantings and then the same thing happen. I believe the last time the community came up and said, these plants are not going to work. I remember, or I've heard, let me just say that, that the community even stated that the plants they were planting, they knew from the very beginning it was not going to work. And so we've got a lot of really intelligent people in our community that I feel like could help us with this. I know that for the gateways, we do need a landscape architect, but perhaps there are other things that we can do within the community. That's also why we have the TEC. So I'm not in favor of moving this forward at the moment.
Member Stokel.
Yes. So this is coming out of our transportation fees, is that correct?
There's no established funding.
So this is out of the general fund, potentially? Or if we were to vote in favor, do we know what?
We do not know where, we're asking for direction from you.
Okay, okay. And then,
Member Stokel, that was the discussion at the time when we made the motion.
When you- okay, that's where I was getting
we
confused.
used, the landscape trust fund
Okay.
for these dollars.
okay. And I do think that this was good intent because I was there during the discussion of the 95 and the major corridors. And one of the biggest complaints we were getting is, please clean up the blight. Please clean up the blight from our city. And so that was the first starting point, and I think this was going to be the second starting point. But I think, as was mentioned, if we do things and they don't stay that way, it's a waste of money. And so I think that's kind of where I'm at as well, until I can feel confident if we are going to invest in beautifying our city. If I cannot be guaranteed that we can maintain that, I don't feel good about spending the dollars. So part of me is saying, why don't we hold off until we have that maybe more discussion at our retreat? I just don't feel comfortable spending it until I have those answers.
Vice Mayor.
Well, while I agree with that, and maybe we ought to look into trying to have some sort of maintenance contract on these things, but this is a feasibility study I mean, it's not something that we have to implement, but it's something we have that we know we can use. And it's, as a feasibility study, we will be able to review it and add to or take away from it. So I'm not sure I want to delay the feasibility study because it's not putting any plants in or anything like that. And obviously we don't even know how much it's going to cost us to do this. But we do need to beautify the area if we can, and if we can find the funds to do it.
Member Moscoso.
Yeah, I would say like the feasibility study, I get where you're coming from. This does not include engineering, irrigation, permitting, traffic analysis, construction documents, public engagement process, or implementation. It's really a conceptual planning. That's it, for $80,000.
Things are expensive. They really are.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, it sounds like, obviously we're probably not going to reach a consensus on this, so might be a good idea if we table the item to another agenda down the road. Anybody have any suggestions on that? maybe after we do a few budget workshops? Yes. All right. So can I have a motion to table this item?
I'll make a motion that we table this item and we put it on our agenda for our workshop retreat that we're having the end of the month. And so we can discuss it there a little bit. I mean, but I still make the motion to table it.
All right, so I have a motion to table until after our budget workshops later in the fall.
Second.
Second by Member Stokel. Any further discussion? All those, or is that?
Sorry, I just have a discussion. If we discuss it there, then depending on the outcome, would it come back and then appear perhaps on the consent agenda or under old business or?
It would depend on the discussion being made, and if it gets brought up again and council decides to bring it up at a future meeting, yeah, it could come back up on old business.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Any new business? Seeing none, petitions and requests from the public, non-agenda items?
Darcia Bayer. This council has often talked about social media sources, and implied information being shared isn't accurate or factual. At the same time, a member of this council seems to be actively using other social media sources to spread their own propaganda. There have been 3 stories in the last week shared locally on a social media site that has always seemed to post stories that have an angle that support one narrative. Ironically, the site doesn't seem to get the same backlash as others. That source seems to be pointing blame at the current city manager for his lack of accountability for 20 years as the assistant manager, as an attempt for a power grab. While I'm not interested in the power grab that I believe is behind the articles, I do believe that the city manager has been complicit with what has been happening within our city for the last 20 years. It was his job to oversee finance and purchasing. I'm once again calling for a forensic audit. Now on to the next frustration that I have with the city. As a citizen of Titusville, I have grown increasingly frustrated with the city's website. Last week, I tried to look up June's calendar and add things to my personal calendar. While there's a drop-down that appears that I can pick the month of June, nothing happens. This feels intentional. I've also spent some time trying to look for the city's charter. So far, I have yet to even find it and have no clue where it exists online. It feels intentional that things are difficult to access. This is another example of how the city is lacking in transparency and making things difficult for us to access as citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else petitions and requests from the public, non-agenda items? Seeing none, moving on to mayor and council reports. Member Moscoso.
Thank you. I wanted to recognize, we got an email about one of our officers who jumped into the river and saved, I believe it was 3 individuals. Officer Van Zyl. So I just wanted to make sure that we recognize that. Also, I had the opportunity to go out on a ride along with TPD this morning to check out all the school zone cameras. And that was really, really good. And we were able to, they know my stance. I'm not for them, but I thought it was really good because I needed some understanding of where the cameras actually were, and I had a lot of questions, and I think we were able to, they were able to help me understand that we had over, I think the report said 13, they're saying 14,000 warnings in 2 months, and that's only 6 or 7 school zones. That's not including the phase 2 that's going to be coming out. I did ask for clarification that in phase 2 that there will be a 60-day warning period as well. So that will happen there, which I think is really important. Obviously, there's a lot of questions about this. People are confused, and I think we need to do a little bit of a better job of making sure that we're educating people. And we spoke about this, and so one of the ideas was to make sure we put it on the water bill, because there's a lot of people that don't go to our website or they don't use Facebook. We also discussed maybe putting it on the city marquee so that people are aware. If this is passed, then I think we've got to do our best to make sure that we're educating people on this. I personally don't want people to be I don't want people speeding, I don't want people getting tickets, but this is where we're at. And so making sure we do our best to educate people. We talked about it being during the summer, and I begged them, please do not have them on the summer. I think they're looking into it. I don't think it will be during the summer, but I want them to be able to confirm that. But it was a really good ride along. They answered a lot of questions. I would say if people are getting warnings, well, the warning period is over. If you're getting tickets, you can't, I'm asking TPD if they would set up an email as well, so that when people reach out to us and ask questions, or they want to send it. I mean, I've had people show me all of their warnings. We can also recommend that they email them in, and they can ask the questions directly to TPD. And they said that they would respond. I also asked about the oversight of who's checking all of these. Like, how were you able to check 14,000 tickets? So Officer Gonzalez told me he is the one who's checking for anomalies, and he's looking through that. They're not just clicking through everything. So a lot of good questions were asked. They were able to give me a lot of good information. But I think it's a work in progress. Still don't like them at all. But we're going to do the best that we can. And, my hope is that we don't speed, and then we can get rid of them completely. That would be the ultimate goal, in my opinion.
Thank you. Member Stokel?
Yes, just to clarify, I thought we were told that they would not be running when school's not in session. So no holidays, no breaks, no summer. That's what I thought we had.
That is correct. That
They
is
did
per
run-
state statute.
Yeah, they did run during spring break.
They did?
Yes, but it's because there's different school zones that had different, so people did get warnings during spring break, and that was because there's different, schools were out at different times. It was actually only one school, because I asked specifically, I think it was only St. Teresa's. So if people got a ticket during spring break, it was at St. Teresa's, from my understanding.
Yeah, St. Teresa's has a different schedule than BPS.
Okay.
Well, does that conclude your report? Yes. All right. Thank you for the discussion. Vice Mayor Cole, you want to go?
Yeah, I work pretty closely with TFD and the Titusville Police Department. And what I'm noticing is that we have some very high-trained and dedicated police officers. And we're losing it, firefighters and police officers, and we're losing a lot of our highly trained police officers to other communities because we, as a city, are unable to pay some of the salaries that the county, Orlando, even UCF can pay. So we're losing these guys. So I don't think City Council should impose any type of tax on our citizenry for that. But I think that I would like to make a motion to direct the staff and the city attorney to prepare all necessary ballot language, legal documentation, and analysis related to the materials required to place a referendum before the voters of Titusville. So basically, let the citizens make that decision. If, we know we need to have a strong public safety, police department, fire department, but we need to be able to keep these guys. We just finished our union negotiations, and we see how prices are rising. We don't want to increase taxes, obviously. But if you, the citizens, want to do it, then we can. So my motion would be to direct the staff and the city attorney to prepare all necessary ballot language, legal documents related to the materials required to put a referendum before the voters of Titusville concerning increased funding dedicated solely to police and firefighter compensation.
City Attorney?
Yes, I would just remind council and caution council at this point regarding such a decision on a magnitude of placing anything on a referendum, that we should have put it on the agenda for the public's weigh-in.
Yeah, I don't think it's something we're going to vote on to put on referendum right now. Just kick it over to staff to analyze.
To analyze it and to look at it and see what's required,
that's what I
and then
took
it'll
out of
come
it.
back to us.
No, again, it's at council's preference.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, which I've voiced before, what I classify as the drive-by motions, for us to not have these things be heard or motioned on or voted on without the public's notice of it, that's all.
So let me ask you this question. Do you think that maybe I can withdraw the motion and then we have it on the, and I requested it's on the agenda for our next council meeting? Would that be the appropriate way as you see it?
Again, yes, just to have it noticed is my
Okay,
recommendation.
I don't have a-
understand.
I do not have a problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and I think it's about advisability because, we probably need more information before we can make that decision. But, I commend Vice Mayor Cole's efforts to, do the best we can to help attract and retain the best public servants that we have. I constantly see, people say we should pay them more. And to that, I agree. But, you can only get so much blood out of a turnip. So what can we do to not only engage the public so that they feel heard on this item, but, have that dialogue about what attracting and retaining good public servants looks like. So, yeah, thank you for bringing this up.
Okay.
Member Moscoso?
Sure, we just approved the 3% multiplier, and I don't even know if we know how much that is going to cost us. This is a big deal that could cost a lot of money, and we want to support our police and our fire, but I just had this discussion with our city manager, and from my understanding, from our discussion, with the 3% multiplier, and then, I'm sorry, what is the other thing that it's called where you pay in the cities? What are they? They're matching.
401, 403. She's talking about the
Matching contributions, 4%.
The 4% matching contribution. From my understanding, we have a pretty good package. I'm not saying it's the best. I will say my concern, even with the 3% multiplier, I will say I didn't understand a lot of it. I'm still trying to understand it. Is that we need to know what this 3% multiplier is even going to cost us. I think before we
do
get.
have the actuarial.
Do we
stuff.
have it? Okay.
Yes.
Do you have it with you?
No, I don't have it with me.
I believe from our.
It was discussed it was passed out at the executive session.
It was
Okay.
1.2 million.
Okay, so that is just going to cost us 1.2
Right, and
million.
the funds are available this year for the collective bargaining. We have those funds embedded, and they will be as part of the FY '27 budget, so we will cover those costs. Also, in addition to the multiplier, the collective bargaining agreements both had pay adjustments for police and fire to make them more competitive. So we have, made some progress in that direction as well.
Yeah, so I'm not against us having the discussion once we've had more time to research it. I'm not super knowledgeable. I, of course, want our men and women to be paid. It looks like we are trying that with these with the union and the agreements that we're doing now. And so if we feel like there needs to be more, but I'd love to make sure we know what this is going to cost us before we go on to add additional.
Well, that's not what maybe you misunderstood what I was saying. I was saying that we put it on a referendum on the ballot so that the public will be able to voice their opinions whether they think we can do it. Because if we keep doing 1.2, it's going to increase every year because prices increase every year. We just lost, how many people did you lose, chief? Officers. Didn't you lose a couple of officers recently to another? Yes, please.
We lost a senior driver and a company officer, and we have 10 vacancies currently. So there's a cost to a 3%, but I'd say there's a higher cost to not having a 3%. You have to weigh that too.
And I think the steps that we took during the collective bargaining agreement was to address the pension. And I think that's a very good step to take. But most of the people starting off early in their career between 1 year and 5 years of experience are not typically thinking about retirement. They're thinking, how do I pay my mortgage? How do I provide for my family? Gas is $4.58 a gallon. And if we're not competitive on wages, how do we get those, rookie, paramedics, drivers to be here 10, 15 years down the road if we can't be competitive? So I think, it's at least a very good exercise to figure out what it would take for us to be a high-performing agency and see what that looks like. And at the end of the day, if you put it before the voters, they're the ones that ultimately decide whether they think that's a good idea or they think it's a bad idea. And then if it's earmarked specifically for that, just like Sorrel and by the way, it's on your tax bill now for increased teacher pay. If you didn't notice that, that is on there. It wouldn't be the worst thing to have it earmarked, and therefore, depending on if there's leadership changes or administration changes, that stays in place, just kind of thinking about all these different things. Thank you very much, Chief. So, well, Vice Mayor, I appreciate you bringing it up, and obviously, we're missing somebody, and we can have maybe another discussion about this at the next meeting and kind of see where it goes. And I know our city attorney's like, oh gosh, what would you get us into? But hopefully we're not causing no sleep tonight, and you can come back with us.
Sure, if I may. The city attorney's office is happy to do any legal search, either by the vote of, or motion and vote by council or individual council. The city attorney's office serves at the pleasure of council, so I don't, I'm adverse to the advisability word, as everyone knows. So if there's any research on referendum or the legal process, I'm happy to do so without it having to be brought before council.
All right. Thank you very much. Vice Mayor?
Let me make sure I understand what you just said. So you're willing to do this research for the ballot without us giving you a motion?
As far as the process,
The
and
process.
that's what I think I
So maybe at the
heard.
next meeting, when the motion comes up, when we get it on the agenda, maybe you can you'll be able to articulate the process.
I will provide you a memo ahead of
Okay.
time in
All right.
addition, as I normally do, in addition
Okay.
to articulate any question as it pertains to the legal process in getting any topic or anything on topic at a referendum, for
Okay.
sure, absolutely.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I think I heard that's what you were
Yes.
perhaps asking.
That's what I was asking, yes.
Mayor?
Uh-huh.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't
Thanks.
look alike.
Yep.
All right. Member Stokel?
The only thing is just to reiterate if there are any items that you feel like we need for our retreat at the end of the month. And I know we've mentioned some at our meetings past, but just so we can have staff prepare that in advance so it can be a productive meeting. That was it.
Thank you, Member Stokel. I don't have anything tonight. Appreciate staff for being here, and especially our internal auditor and asset manager, Chrissy Lake, I believe her name is. And again, really appreciate their detailed report. City Manager, your report.
Yes, sir. Besides the asset manager's report, I just had 2 info items on the city manager report. We're going to be having a summer meal program running from June 1st to middle of July to feed 150 school-age children with food insecurities at various locations throughout Titusville. And it's being sponsored by Concerned Citizens and Hope for North Brevard. We've had a meeting together and they'll be using the Harry T. Moore Center as a collecting and staging area. So that's a good thing. And also, as Ms. Schifflo indicated earlier, there's a workshop on the 28th of May, historic preservation workshop.
Thank you very much for your report. City Attorney?
Nothing.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned. We'll see you in 2 weeks.